The Fantastic Four series is once more playing with the idea of a dark/evil Sue Storm. Beware the Invisible Woman. Now this is likely inspired, and you can say that because you see the costume they're using, surrounding the discussion and interest that was there surrounding the Marvel Rivals Malice skin. This was pretty big in early 2025. It is now 2026, and so this may be a case of striking when the iron is cold. That's not to say people don't still play Rivals, of course they do. But that particular Malice hype moment has cooled. There are different characters and skins that get talked about at the moment time recording. I'm curious if this was meant to come out sooner, but just because of the slow wheels of dealing with corporations, it just so happened to come out now, or if it was just an idea that came up now. But however it came about, what are they doing this time? We're gonna have to say with Evil Sue, because so far this arc, she hasn't officially been called Malice or called herself Malice. They just kind of hinted around it. This take is definitely different than some of the past ones, and I want to discuss it. Now, if you're a fan of videos like this, please hit the like button. It helps spread awareness with the algorithm and it helps the channel out. I'm Sasha, this is Casually Comics. Let's talk dark versions of characters. Now, the storyline we'll be looking at for this is The Invisible Woman, which began in issue 6 of Ryan North's second Fantastic Four run. They stopped it and relaunched it with a new number 1, but with the same writer. Marvel does that. This latest Ryan North run began in 2025. Currently, this Invisible Woman arc is 4 issues deep, so it's not entirely concluded yet, but there's more than enough to discuss the Invisible Woman as she stands, because they've given her an origin and all of that good stuff. Now, despite the fact that this arc starts in issue 6, not much of it is directly overly relevant to Dark Sue. Some of it's just setting up where the characters are going to be for battles later on and the like. The setup for everything begins in that Sue is showcasing her powers. She gets these aliens who have come to conquer Earth to leave. Their plan is to stop the rotation. It's going to be always light on one side, always dark on the other. The people are going to suffer. She uses some light illusion to make it seem like they can do that whenever they want. And so the aliens are discouraged and disillusioned and they leave. This is to highlight what a powerhouse she is, because Sue's power level is going to be a bit of a focus for this arc. Kinda. What's important to remember is that she's an incredibly powerful character, and her power level has only grown since her debut in the 60s. This is not going to make a commentary on that, that's just the way things have gone. Now, Mariah Hill wants to set up S.H.I.E.L.D. as another future foundation, after tensions with the Fantastic Four and others during One World Under Doom. So she's come to communicate with them and see if they can make that happen. And on the Fantastic Four side of things, after an attack inside their own building, they find that they need to leave. They decode an encrypted message from Galactus saying that he needs Sue Storm. So the next issue is them gearing up to leave, making the decision to leave their children as a junior Fantastic Four at their insistence, but also setting up some adult backup that can be teleported in just in case. So the beginning of that issue is them setting up and finding the backup, and the second half of the issue is a fight for the junior Fantastic Four. Sue's backup person is Felicia, the Black Cat. If you're wondering why they didn't go get She-Hulk, she's in space. Wyatt Wingfoot got an invite though. A Wyatt Wingfoot sighting. The junior Fantastic Four run into trouble with the Mad Thinker, which takes us to the majority of the end of the issue, but that brings us to 8 in our version of Malice. Our cover for 8, which I also use for the thumb because it's just great in my opinion, is by Humberto Ramos, who is the artist for this issue and the issues in this run. Inside the issue, things are by Victor Olazaba and the colors are by Edgar Delgado. This issue begins with a retelling of the origins of the Fantastic Four. The story is Strange's secret origin, and at first things seem to be proceeding as normal. But then, during their first encounter with the Skrulls, which in the original run was the second issue, Sue's powers expand. She can do much more than anticipated. We were fighting alien invaders when I discovered I could do more than just turn myself invisible. I could turn others invisible too. I was as shocked as anyone, so shocked I turned visible again. I was bending light, but more than that, I was making force fields with my mind. As time goes on, she just gets more and more creative with her powers. And Reed begins to surmise that really she's the most powerful member of them all, just in terms of the scope of her abilities and their range. We get a science explanation from Reed. Even when they do this though, there's still gonna be people who say that it's not plausible or that it doesn't actually work. But they'll put it in there because they're trying. It's like a Star Trek episode. You gotta explain the tech they're trying to tech. Reverse the shield polarity. Light, like magnetism, like electricity, like radio waves and X-rays and gamma rays and microwaves, is an electromagnetic phenomenon, old friend. It's massless and unchanged, and yet Sue bends it anyway. I believe she's adjusting the crosswire electrical and magnetic fields that light at quantum scale is made of, overriding both Maxwell's equations and the Lorentz force law at the same time. It's astounding. Put simply, Susan, if you can command light in this way, then you must also necessarily be the master of every other electromagnetic force in the universe. Look out, Magneto. But Reed, I don't control magnetism or radio, and definitely not microwaves. Not yet. With your permission, Susan, I'd like to begin training. Ah, so this is Reed's fault. Now this is all well and good, and her and Reed fall for each other. She already liked him before, but this is what pushes them together. The comic also dodges any implications that Reed falls for Sue because he likes studying her. but you could definitely read into it that way with not too much prompting. You know, if you need fodder for an edgier, darker retelling later on, or if in the issues that haven't come out yet we need a secret Reed villain reveal, it was Reed the whole time. Now, one night, Sue has a nightmare. She's being beset by villains on all sides, and so she unleashes in a way she never has before and kills them. Only when she wakes up, she discovers that she's killed everyone. Not just everyone where she's staying, everyone in the entire world. Now, there may be some survivors because it's revealed that Johnny survived because he's looking for her, but as it's presented in this issue, everyone. So this is a moment that you have to be on board for the level to which they've scaled her powers up in order to fully engage with the drama and angst that is going to come from this moment. If one doesn't, then the following downfall and all of the drama that ensues may be a bit more difficult to get behind. I spent weeks alone, searching through the ruins of Earth, and all I found were bodies. I could still hear Reed's voice in my head. What you're smelling are organic compounds, he'd say, explaining as always, cadaverine and putrescine. Chemically, they're the smell of death. I think I might have gone a little crazy. It was an accident. Of course it was, but that didn't change anything. How could it? I'd killed billions. There had never been a worse person than me. And now there never would be. Racked with guilt, Sue lets Johnny find her. And she then attempts to convince him that the only way to deal with this is for her to essentially lobotomize herself, that she can't live with this level of guilt. She has to remove it. And so she forces him to flame on, takes a bit of his flame through all of her power manipulation, and just takes out that part of her brain. And after that, she becomes a different person entirely. That is how this Sue becomes Malice, or a version of an evil, invisible woman. I don't feel bad about anything anymore. And I'll never hear Reed's voice in my head again. The idea of Reed as a moral compass is fascinating. It's an inversion on what we usually have. It's often quite markedly the other way around. Now, free from the guilt, Sue changes, and she comes to embrace her powers. She reasons that a good person wouldn't end all life on a planet, hence she must not be a good person, so why struggle to be something she isn't? She then decides to go and explore the limits of her powers. How far can she go? There's nothing for her to feel bad about anymore. She can't. And after killing Johnny, she takes her newfound malicious energy out there to the universe. Now, there are some interesting ideas that are kind of brought up here on a surface level. The questions of how far can one / should one go to rationalize? How does one deal with intense guilt? How does guilt intertwine with morality? They're raised, but they're not delved into. It's a bit of a stark contrast from the original Malice arc, which we've gone over in depth, which actually mines Sue's psyche quite intimately. It explores her feelings of inadequacy and frustration with her placement on the team, how she's viewed by the others, particularly how she's treated by Reed. All the fears she has about maybe not living up to her potential, about potentially being too young for Reed, not feeling that she's his equal, all kinds of things. And since those were Sue's own feelings that had been manipulated to the surface, she had to deal with them by the arc's end, kind of embrace them in a way. It's at the end of that arc that she takes the name of the Invisible Woman. There have been other Malice resurfacings since then, but they tend to shy away from that level of depth. Instead, they play more in the realm of what if evil Sue, which can be fun. It varies in how fun and entertaining it is each time they do it. That's where this one is sitting closer to time of recording, but also has the potential to really go some places. So as it stands for this dark invisible woman, we have Sue's powers accidentally get out of control. She lobotomizes herself, leaving only the worst parts of herself behind as a form of ultimate cope. Again, this is interesting because you could look at it as a kind of commentary on what happens when people give in to the most negative perceptions of themselves, either placed upon them by other people or by themselves, or just because they have actually done something and they can't handle it. How can one forgive oneself? Forgiveness can be very difficult. Although in this case, she killed an entire planet. But people have done that in comics before, and the comics will bend over backwards to find reasons why it's okay. Now, the scale of what Sue has done here in some ways takes away from how far you could go psychologically, because it's so much, even if it's accidental. A city or so would have given one a bit more wiggle room to play with, and also more people to come after her and bounce more of those views and opinions off of. But maybe that'll be revealed later, that actually there were survivors, or it's not exactly how she's detailed it. And then issue 10 will come, we'll have a Legasp twist moment, and then we'll have to come back because we'll have an entirely new view of this Malice. But overall in this case, we're dealing with an actual alternate evil Sue. who's still got a revealing dark costume. It's in the rulebook for female villainy. Now, at the end of issue 8, we see that Galactus was looking for Sue because evil Sue was killing him, and it takes an invisible woman to fight an invisible woman, or something like that. This means we get to see the Sues interact. It is always interesting to see the good and the bad of the same character kind of go at it. Now, in this case, main Sue is not as powerful as her counterpart, who is truly pulling out a lot of stops, like making a bunch of light duplicates of herself, which she also realizes she can then make invisible because Johnny foolishly speaks his counterplan out loud and she takes some ideas from that. Also, I'm still not into Johnny's mustache. It's been years. I can't get into it. Now, part of what Dark Sue is trying to showcase is that you don't need 4. You only need 1 because she's the most powerful. This could be a commentary on how much they power scaled Sue up, but it doesn't seem to be. It also could be a way of her coping, or it sounds a bit like guilt, but she cut the guilt out. What it leads up to in this issue is we're the same, you and I. Which at least it has more grounds. They are at least the same person. She starts to talk to Sue about how dangerous she can be. Sue, that is. Please, if we're the same, then you know you don't have to do any of this. Oh, agreed. I absolutely didn't have to give you the chance to fight back. I could have given you seizures, a nice electrical storm in the brain, and shut you all down right off the bat. We're built for this, Sue. You and me. Our bodies are built for killing. Again, there are some interesting ideas at play here. The dark version of oneself wanting to corrupt the good or pure one. If evil Sue's life is ruined, she's trying to convince other Sue, and maybe herself, that that's just the way Sues are, or should be. Killing machines. That they're just bad. Remember the Council of Reeds where almost every other alternate read was sketchy? Good times. The idea of how one would react meeting an alternate version of oneself that was morally opposite is fascinating to ponder. There'd be a lot of questions. What happened? Nature versus nurture things. And this trope is and has been popular for some time. But these again are just brought up. They're left for the audience to mind if they so choose, as it stands. For this comic, the focus is Sue fight. What this comic does spend some time to overtly discuss is the idea that it's not what one can do potentially, but what one chooses to do that matters. No, the purpose of a system is what it does, not what it is. Just because you have the power to hurt people doesn't mean you have to. We can always choose to be better. We can always choose to be good. And there are some sins that can never be forgiven. And I killed everyone, Sue. You can't logic your way out of that. Main Sue goes on to say that by burning the ability to feel guilt out of her brain, alternate Sue has removed the part of them that made them similar, effectively removing the could our Sue do this argument by saying, no, it's actually physically impossible. Firstly, that she couldn't kill everybody because they've established that she's weaker, and secondly, that she wouldn't go off on this kind of bad spree because she feels guilt, because since the murder of all those people, it's very heavily implied that Malice has gone and done bad things. I almost said she's a bad girl. I might need to stop. They're not the same, her and her. She also says that she wanted to see if it would be hard to kill her, and it's not. Main Sue then brings up the Maker, the dark alternate of Reed from the Ultimate Universe, but goes on to say that no one was beyond hope, not him and not this Sue. By this point, faux Malice is trying to lobotomize her, so there can be 2. You could infer that so she won't be alone, but that's not what's stated in the issue. It's more stated the idea of think of all the power that they could have together. The real danger of the Fantastic Four was never an evil Reed Richards. It was an unchained Susan Storm. I mean, why choose? At this point, I think the true danger is an evil Reed and Sue power couple. Now I want to see it. And that was something people were low-key shipping when they had the skins too, because there was the Malice skin and the Maker skin. You could kind of put them together, fan art. Johnny actually calls this alternate evil Sue as he tackles her, which definitely undercuts some of the potential seriousness the scene had. North's run in general focuses on keeping things fun. That was something he overtly stated at the start of his first run, when there was a letter talking about his intentions and goals for the series. It will bring up emotional beats, but it tends not to linger too long over particularly angst-ridden ones or ones that could be darker, or approach them from a particularly heavy angle. That's just not where the heart of his run lies. It's more on the team as happy family, with those kind of moments where families grate on each other more minimized or the more lighthearted types. And it's also more focused on the adventures and the fun superhero / sci-fi action you can have with the Fantastic Four. To me, this run could be more balanced at points, and the Fantastic Four in general as a series thrives when you have a good mix of both. Those heavy drama moments where it's not afraid to kind of get into some of the ugly aspects of the team as family, but it also still has the highs of those good moments and those peak adventure moments. But mileage varies. I know some love the tone that this series has and feel it has a great balance. They think it's fantastic. I had to. The comic does it too. I love the Fantastic Four. The more people are into the team and want to talk about it, the better. Now, the team managed to shake off Evil Sue, but don't think she'll stop because she wants their Sue. So they brace themselves and they start heading back towards Earth, and also they send a warning on ahead. The issue ends with the promise that next issue is going to be Invisible Woman versus the Earth, and it has a cool homage cover. So we shall see how it all shakes up and where things end up with this evil alternate Sue. Again, things could change and we'll need to come back. That's the fun thing about comics. They keep going, so you can talk about it more than once. But as it stands, that is this alternate Evil Sue, kind of Malice because they're using that rival's costume. A super powerful, guilt-free version of Sue Storm. Just curious about how far she can go. Now, since they don't fully call her Malice, the use of the rival's costume does feel like it's more there as a tie-in and nod to the game than anything else. It's not exactly the same, but the inspiration is clear, and it's interesting to see a variant on what was already a variant version of the costume. And I'm sure the cover of issue 8 garnered some interest. If you're looking for a good Sue versus bad Sue fight, then I think this arc will be fun for you. So far, it hasn't presented too much beyond that in terms of getting really deep with some of the psychological issues that it brings up, but that may not be what you're looking for. You just may want to see a good Sue and an evil Sue duke it out, and there are still interesting ideas to play with. For me, I hope they spend a bit more time with Dark Sue. There's so many more questions to explore there. Was she always comfortable with her powers? Was she completely blindsided by this as it was shown in the comics? Did she have moments where she was afraid of what was awakening in her? Is this all going to turn around secretly be Reed's fault? If we're going to take the time to create a new alternate and invoke the Malice imagery, which has such a storied history, it would be nice to see an evil Sue that's really something complex and special. Just because at this point we do go to the dark alternate well a decent amount in terms of comics in general. So if you're gonna go there, drink deep. But all of these, as always, are just my thoughts, and I want to hear yours. You may think something else entirely, and I'd love to hear it. Are you enjoying the latest Dark Sue arc? Are you glad they used the new version of the Malice costume? Do you feel it's just trying to tie in and that's doing so too late? How do you feel about this era of the Fantastic Four? Just tell me things, and please put them down below. While you're down there, please all YouTube things. Like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification so that you never miss a vid. Thanks so much for taking some time out of your day to spend discussing comics with me. I always appreciate it, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.